Boom. Welcome everybody, man. Thank you guys tuning in. Another agent to CEO conversation. And I'm really excited to dive in and maybe a little selfishly, because I know from my personal, experience, right? You get into knowing yourself and identifying those strengths, those weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And for me, it's always lean towards my strengths and avoid my weaknesses and or go get and create leverage to overcome that. And my weakness has always been sales. And it's funny though, right? In everything we do, we're in sales. If you run a company, you're in sales, right? You got to sell your people on why your idea or why this idea or why this vision. So you're really kind of hardwired. You're already in sales with any type of success. But when I look at like structured sale process, I know that's always been kind of a weak link in why I've always gravitated more to marketing focused, right? It's not the best real estate agent that wins. It's the best marketer that wins. Be able to create more traffic, more demand, make selling. It doesn't even exist. Being able to do that. However, everything has to lead to a conversation in all of your marketing efforts, no matter what you do. The days of, unless you're Amazon, but very, very, especially higher ticket things that involve trust. There is no thing as click and buy. Everything has to lead to a conversation, and how that conversation unfolds is where, I think the difference is going to be made. So I'm super excited to have Mr. Moose Reed in the house and on the podcast with us today. And Moose is head of sales for Sphere Rocket, which has been fun to see the ride with Justin. I think Justin coming to Kitchen Table two years ago, he came in and just the aspirations coming close to 4 million in revenue that year. And he muscled, right? He muscled his way to that point, but having the big aspirations and the big goals that he has and what he's wanting to do with Sphere Rocket and that company and the impact and the lives it's changing. I just sitting there talking to him, I'm like, okay, I know your pain point. I know your next hire, and then you're going to have to level up. With the ones and threes concept. And, the one thing I love about Justin is that he listens and he moves fast.
Man,
very fast. That conversation was in December. Next thing I know, we're meeting with Joel at the end of January. And then, you're in the fold pretty short, right in that time frame. And it really to go from where they were at to that next level, right? Ones and threes, meaning the people that get you to $1 million in revenue, they're not going to get you to 3. And the ones that get you to 3 are probably not going to get you to 10. And
I need you to be careful saying that, John. Like, I don't know at what point Justin's going to say, hey, it's been real. It's been fun. It has been real fun. So I'm on to my next.
The reason though, Moose, is that they can ride that next wave with you. Right.
That's right.
So you might find a rock star that can get you to $1 million, that can get you to 3. It's going to be real hard for them to ride another jump. Yeah. So you coming in, hey man, you're going to get them to 10. You're going to be able to ride with them to get them to 30. And so I think when you get world-class like Joel and like yourself, you're able to do that. And so I'm really excited to have Moose on with us to talk all things sales process, how come, things to think about selling into the future. And then also who to go get, like who's designed, who's wired for sales in today's world. And what are those, what are the sales activities now that weren't sales activities 5 years ago, right? Just how we conduct and create opportunities. So Moose, welcome, brother.
Thank you so much for having me, John. Honored to be here. Stoked that you invited me. Thanks a ton. But also, guys, for anyone who's listening, man, if you haven't been to the kitchen table events, I was honored to go to the Q4. We had our Q4 mastermind planning at the kitchen table, and it was awesome. Me and Joel, our COO, are now trying to implement all of our quarterly planning at the kitchen tables events because John and his team are so strong, and they had us thinking operationally about things that we weren't considering. And just like Joel always says, right? Operations. While I got to be biased and be like, hey, sales is important. Operations is much more important than sales. I know where my weakness is at as well, and I would rather be stronger on your side of the table. You know what I'm saying?
No, and I appreciate that, but it's, I just have seen it in with the organizations, and everything's different, and those that are not strong in marketing, they can, they'll tell you got to be strong in sales, and they can sell their way through anything. And I know your background of high ticket sales, and real estate's a high ticket sale.
It is.
It really is. So, Moose, I would love, give a little context, a little background about yourself, and kind of how we even, got to this point.
Yeah. So I'll start off from the beginning, just so that everyone knows. I've been in sales for the last 14 years. I started my career in timeshare at the age of 20 years old. I was playing football at Florida State University. Like you see the Florida State pennants behind me, right? I'm a huge Florida State fan. And I walked onto the football team. My family had always done well growing up. But when I was 20 years old, I knew that my family had lost everything in the 2008 recession. But I really experienced it in 2010 when I went home for Christmas break. I went home and I found my family living in a hotel. I was from Orlando, Florida. They were living in New Hampshire, just pursuing their next opportunity. It was really odd. So I had a decision that I had to make. I had to either figure out what I was going to do financially to help my family, or I was going to keep on pursuing my dream of playing football at Florida State. And being a 6 foot, 194 pound linebacker, I knew that my options were limited with football. So I said, I better get into this sales world. Right. Went and got into timeshare at 20 years old, did pretty well for myself, got my family back on their feet. I went back to school with the intention of getting a job on Wall Street. While I was in school, I sold Cutco knives door to door, where I was the top sales rep in the nation in 2012. From there, I graduated college. When I graduated, I got a job at Blackrock, which is the world's largest asset manager, where I was wholesaling mutual funds. While I was there, I loved the markets. I loved Blackrock as a company. I found that the reason I was there was because I was, just selling knives to the right people in the neighborhood. And that got me an opportunity, but I did not fit in that crowd. Right? Everyone else, they were there because their dad was the number 2 at Goldman Sachs, or their dad was the number 2 at, whatever. And I did not fit in that crowd. So I left. I got a job as an area sales manager with the company Regis, selling office space to small business owners. And then from there, I found this world of startups and small business. I started building out sales teams over the last 5 years now. I've built out 150 different teams. I've onboarded 3,000 reps that include AEs and SDRs and some CSMs. And I've been with Sphere Rocket now since November of 2022 as their sales director. And it's been an honor to be with Sphere Rocket. Love the company and love the guys that I work for, which is really, really rare as a salesperson. So it's an honor to work for guys who give me the bandwidth that I need to do the things I need to execute on, and also lead a team, not just ask me to go and sell, but also ask me to lead, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is. And your story is fascinating, man. You go from, that walk-on mentality, right? Because that's not everybody's built that way, right? Not everybody's built to have that chip on the shoulder, not to have that grit, to have that tenacity, to be able to persevere especially when every door is shutting in your face. And I think of the ultimate walk on. I think of Baker, just being, Sooner fan and being able to have him come through there and that type of grit and mentality. And so we got to see it firsthand, by, being a Sooner fan, and he really embodied what that is. And I think all of the, players that have ever walked on have that same type of kind of grit and DNA, and being able to persevere and not allowing doors shut in your face to shut you down.
Yeah.
And I think, when you start to look at it, and I would love for you to maybe dive in right here, like for really to excel from a sales perspective, what is that grit? What is that DNA? What is that mindset? What is that belief that allows you, to not take things personally?
Yep. It's really funny that you mentioned that, John. I say all the time that the first thing I ever sold was my way onto the Florida State football team, right? As a linebacker, right? In 2010, when I played, everyone that I played with went to the NFL from FSU, right? They all weighed 230, 240, and they ran about a 4.5, 4.6 40, right? When people ask me for my 40 time, I tell them it's a forever, right? So I wasn't the fastest guy in the room, but very similar to the Rudy story, right? I was a Florida State fan since I was 8 years old. And it was a bigger goal for me to play football at Florida State than it was in the NFL because I love the brand so much, right? Well, when I went to FSU, I used to run from my dorm room to the FSU office every single day. When I started at football or at Florida State, it was Bobby Bowden's last semester as head coach. And I would go up to the office every single day and I would say, hey, I'm here to walk onto the football team. Tell me who I need to talk to. And I would just talk to the receptionist. And they were obviously going through a lot of drama with Bobby Bowden retiring. And they said, today's not the day, kid. Come and see me at another time, right? There was no one I could call. It's not like I could call a coach and say, hey, I want to talk to you about walking on. So I made that my daily practice every single day. And I would run to the stadium, run up to the football office every day and talk to the girl at the front desk. And every day she would tell me, no, today's not the day, kid. Right. And then a semester into it, I'll never forget this. I was sitting at the lunch table with a bunch of my friends and I did get a phone call. Right. And it was from the defensive line coach who's still a part of Florida State today. And he said, hey, kid, I don't know anything about you, but I do know that you've come to the office every day for a semester. And if you want to walk onto the football team, you can join me tomorrow at 8:00 a.m. on the field, right? So it was just a matter of tenacity that got me there. The walk-on tryout itself, they weren't looking for the most athletic guy. They were looking for a guy who would get beat up and continue to show up every single day, right? So that was the first thing that I sold, right? And as a salesperson, I always tell people, people are always looking for the best sales opportunity, right? And when they're interviewing with me, they always want to say, oh, my conversion is this, my conversion is that. Or if they're new, what I'm trying to express to them is, guys, I don't care about your metrics. If you want to have a good sales interview, tell me the hardest thing that you've ever gone through in your life and how you've overcome it. That's the story that I want to hear, right? If you can tell me that story and identify with that story, I'm confident you can sell some stuff,
Is it a matter of just tapping into that? Because everybody's gone through hard shit. Everybody's gone through hard times, hard things. It's everybody has at some point. Is it tapping into that and really pulling that out of them, creating that level of awareness? Because I mean, to me, if it's a skill, it can be developed, right? Like marketing is a skill, like leadership is a skill, sales is a skill. So it can be developed, it can be learned. It's just like, I mean, I could, I haven't gone on in over a decade, like knee to knee with a seller. Yet I developed the skill to be able to go in and articulate my value with the proven process of how to build rapport, how to set the stage, how to connect, how to, lead by asking questions, how to proactively, articulate the variables in the process. And so, like, can that be developed?
100%. And I think there's different levels of your sales career, right? I think when you start out in sales, people think, man, this is going to be easy, right? I need a product that somebody wants. I'm going to ask them if they want it. They're going to say yes. and I'm going to change their life. But in reality, they don't realize what it's going to be like to get kicked in the teeth, right? This person who told you that they were interested, actually were not interested. You got to hawk them down. You got to follow them. It's rare that people have, sold timeshare and had people on the other side of the table spit on them, et cetera, right? But the first start of it, or the foundation of your sales career, is that tenacity that we're talking about, right? From there, as your sales career begins to evolve, you go into what you just mentioned, John, where you have different processes and procedures, right? Something that I brought up to Justin and to Joel when they brought me on board is they said, hey, I want to grow out the sales team. Well, cool. If we're going to grow out the sales team with as frequently as I've done this, make me one promise. You won't make me find the best sales guy in the world, because the best sales guy in the world does not exist, right? Let me develop the best sales process. And when we have the best sales process in place, I can put the right people in place if they will execute that process.
You cannot hire great people to a broken system.
Never can hire a great person to a broken system. You can't do it. You can't do it.
They will get in and they will see it and they are gone.
Yes.
They are gone. The very few can you find that's willing to ride through and develop it out. I think what I've seen in that, and I would love your 2 cents on it, is that if they can see a bigger future and upside, if they build it out for them.
Yeah.
But very few people are going to do that.
Yeah. Very few people are going to build it out. And what I see with a lot of people when they're wanting to build a sales org, right, is they think it's simple, right? And at the end of the day, it is simple, right? Here are the leads, call the leads, et cetera, right? But there's a sequence that you'd have to develop, et cetera, right? So they're always like, well, here's the phone book, just go and get me sales, right? And if that's how simple sales were, man, everyone would stick it out, right? But you have to have more of a process to create interest, right? To create attention, create AIDA, right? Which I'm sure you're familiar with: attention, interest, decision, and action.
Yeah. So, you're speaking my language, and obviously, you get to work with, especially somebody like Joel, who's all about, right? Let me build the process. What is the system? We need something that is repeatable. We need something that's predictable. We need something that's profitable.
Yes.
And anything that is repeatable can be scaled.
Yep.
And so what makes a great world-class sales process?
Yeah. So a couple of different things. And if anyone is ever interested in this, I'm happy to send over resources, any type of templates that I can give to the audience. John, just feel free to let me know. But it always starts with action, right? It always starts with action. Okay. So it's funny, I'm going through for 2024 and I'm updating my SDR, in real estate, it's often called an ISA, process, right? They're driving KPIs for 2023 were dials, right? Of course, we need leads coming in from the marketing team to support the dials, right? But they have a KPI of hitting 120 dials per day per ISA, okay? We have a team of 4. That's going to generate us roughly 500 dials per day. Okay. It starts there. I'm switching their driving KPI in 2024 to emails, right? Why is it important that I do that? I actually, in the first step of the sales process, as we just went over, I want them to get more attention, right? I have them piquing a lot of interest from phone calls, but we don't have enough attention yet. Right? So if I can create attention through a driving KPI of 100 emails per day, I'll have people raising their hand. If we're sending out a lead magnet, people raising their hand saying, hey, can you call me to tell me more about that lead magnet? Right? Now, the people who they're calling will naturally have more interest. Of course, their KPI on dials won't change. They still have to hit 120 dials per day, because on 100 emails per day, they won't have 100 people raise their hand. So they're still expected to create some attention from phone calls as well. You can't eliminate phone calls, no matter what you do. Everyone in the world has tried to do it. You can't do it. You have to dial.
You have to dial.
So we're starting there with the emails, moving on to the dials. From there, they're going to book a 5-minute appointment, right? Not a long appointment, a 5-minute appointment, right? And we're going to offer, like I mentioned, some type of lead magnet that says, hey, we will do an audit, a time audit of your day to figure out the best place where we could add virtual assistants to your day-to-day, right? From there, after they find, hey, where are you spending your 24 hours, right? If you were a GoPro for 24 hours, where would you find time that you're not spending, that you're not making money on, right? They'll make a recommendation for what position they should hire for, right? Mm. From there, right, they'll book a call with the outside sales team. But that's not the end of their job for the inside sales team. Because we audit 3 sections. We audit their pre-call sequence, which is their emails, what we just went over, right? Who they're responding to. Their during call sequence, which is their script to make sure that they're staying on track with the script. We have a 16-point checklist that they follow during the script, right? And then from there, we follow their post-call sequence, which is confirming that they show up to the outside sales team's call.
Love it.
But then from there, it's always a production line, just like Ford, right? From there, it gets or a relay race is another really good example, right? From there, the process doesn't begin on the call for the outside sales team, right? The outside sales team should have a pre-call sequence that's confirming that this person's going to show up to the call, right? They have a during call process to make sure that they're staying on track with the 16 points I want them to hit with the sales call. From there, we have a post-call follow-up sequence. Those calls, when they get onboarded, get filtered to a CSM. As you can imagine, a CSM has a pre-call, during call, post-call sequence that we're auditing.
So the CSM, explain kind of these different acronyms, what they are, SDR, closer, just every kind of, so, people listening in, because, they even get lost, right? And that's what you say, hey, I'm hiring an ISA. I'm like, well, unpack that, because an ISA in the way I think about an ISA, that I've seen an ISA be the most productive for a real estate agent, is a direct extension of 1, maybe 2 listing agents.
Yes.
And they are that SDR, they are that closer, and they're also executive assistant. So now you throw another component in there as well.
So ISAs are super, very frequent hire through Sphere Rocket. I love building out ISA teams, right? But I'll say this as well for anyone listening. It's also the most failed position that people have when they hire. It's the most failed position because they're leaning on the talent of the ISA versus the process, right? They think that they need Jordan Belfort to go outbound and cold call, right? When in reality, what they need are strong leads coming in that the ISA can call to get the appointment, right? So I'll give you an example. When I took over at Sphere Rocket, we had the same 4 ISAs in place, right? Their job was to search through LinkedIn and scrape leads and then do an outbound activity. And there wasn't much production from them. Okay. Well, at Sphere Rocket, we have 5 sources of inbound leads. Okay. The ISAs now have a script and a process pre-called to try and capture all of those leads and get them booked for appointments. Right. Since we've updated that process year over year, we had a 12x ROI on them in 23 versus in 22. We were not profitable on the same sales talent.
Wow.
Right. So you were asking me the difference between the different roles, right? ISA, inside sales agent, also frequently called an SDR. They're the same interchangeable terms, sales development representative, right? But it's someone who does outbound dials to try and book appointments for the AEs, the account executives, right? Also known as closers, right? And a closer is their job is to bring people across the finish line, right? Now, a lot of times people say, why aren't my AEs going outbound? Well, hopefully they have 5 or 6 appointments on their calendar per day. And if they have 5 or 6 appointments, they won't have time to go outbound.
Right.
They should be mentally exhausted from those 5 or 6.
Right.
right? So AE, and then CSM is a client success manager, right? With Sphere Rocket, they are there to hold the client's hand who's been onboarded to make sure that they are having success, right? Because sales comes down to, again, like we talked about, attention, interest, decision, and action, right? It's not just the sales process. And gosh, I've been saying this so much since the kitchen table, John. The sales process does not end at the client acquisition, right? It ends when you're getting referrals, right? So a CSM's job is to make sure that they have success when they're in the process, extract additional referrals, right? And make sure that they become a raving fan instead of letting the client process die at acquisition.
I love that. And, we've always struggled with compensation, and I want to get into, that here in just a second. And it's like, compensation drives behavior. So how do you want to, what's the behavior you want?
Yes.
And so when you start thinking about this, like the job's not done until they're, you look at this client journey that they go through, right? Awareness being the very first, all the way to they're an advocate, but then the next stage is they promote.
Yep.
So it's one thing to have people that advocate for your business and who you are, but it's another that they promote you and promote you to other opportunities. And that's what we want, want those promoters. And like, I think the number that we've seen kind of baseline is when you've identified those raving fans, we call them legends. When you identify those legends, like you can count on 10% of those people, you're able to close 10% of those deals every year. And that number could go way up, how you proactively manage those raving fans, how you manage those legends. But like, those are the best opportunities. They're like the most profitable opportunities as well.
John, can I give you some real-time data? And again,
Yes.
This comes from the kitchen table, right? This comes from the kitchen table, right? One of the first things I did after the kitchen table was I looked back on all of our lead sources for the year, and I started quantifying it based on how many leads that we had, right? What the lead score is of those leads, because we look at the lead score on each one, right? The show percentage, no show percentage, and of course, conversion, right? Everyone always wants the best leads, right? And they're trying to take a shortcut on getting the best leads, whether they're using Facebook ads, whether they're doing paid marketing, billboards, whatever, right? I'm not saying those things aren't important. They are important. Our Facebook ads, our cold traffic leads last year on the year converted at 13.25%. Okay? We got about a 3x on cold traffic, okay, from our marketing expense. But from our raving fans, from our affiliates, John, we converted it at 70%. Okay? We had, here's the real kicker on it. You ready? We had 5x less leads on affiliates than we did from Facebook ads. And we had a 4x contract value on affiliates from Facebook ads. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The best thing that you can do to generate more leads is take care of your current client list.
That's it. It is. It's so dang good, right? Like, what are you doing for them? How are you improving the experience? I mean, obviously getting them the result, right? Because that's the only reason they hired us in the first place, is to get them a result. Yep. But over promise, over deliver on that result. Yep. And that to me is where, you create those raving fans, those promoters, those legends, being able to, constantly keep sending people your way. Yep. I love it. And it's just expanding that out. And so how have you incorporated that into the sales process? Right.
Yeah. So about 6 months ago, we started adding CSMs, and CSMs have been a huge value add for our business. Right. Their job is to keep track of retention for clients, right? Make sure that they, we used to sell a high ticket offer, which was a one-time fee of $3,000, right? Now we're an annual contract. So we want to make sure that people stick in through us for the annual contract, right? But we also want them to stick for 5 years. We don't want them to stick for just that 1 year, right? So their job is to retain those clients and make sure that they're having success with us, right? They're also there to extract additional referrals, right? And you were asking me a little bit earlier, John, about the cost of of these certain positions, right? What's really interesting with this role is this is a US based role for us, right? We do pay a very aggressive base on this role, and it's a more aggressive base than any other position that I've built out across the 150 orgs I've built, right? But the reason why we can do it is because we have our model set up where they can manage about 120 accounts, right?
Wow.
We cap them at about 90. Okay. So the other 30, they're responsible to self-gen. So we have no marketing costs. The purpose for that is we have offset the cost of their salary by extracting additional referrals.
Love it.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
You know, did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think just you tie them a little bit longer into the process and the communication and the loving and the touching and what do they need, and you start to think about it from that the CSM. I think ours was CEM, same thing, right? Client Experience Manager, and so we were focused on that. But if they can increase longevity, right? Think about that, right? If you're normal in this model where you have a subscription based type model, and we can apply it to real estate too. But if you're subscription based model, coaching model, or whatever the case is, if you're typical, hey, a client stays for 8 months, but if your client experience manager can get them to stay to 14, do the math.
Yep.
Right. So, that's where you can, factor, hey, if you can double our stick rate, like I can afford to pay you an X percent of that revenue in that role to be able to do it. So there's ways that I can see to back into it. But is it buying them to that is where you really get somebody that, because the thing that I've seen, and how do you overcome the kill now type mentality, and how do you keep them engaged for the long haul, especially around sales process and compensation? How do you keep them? Yeah, I get it. Right. We got the next kill. But how do you also teach some farming and some nurturing in there as well?
Yeah, of course. So it's really interesting that you bring this up. Of course, as an AE, right? An AE, which most real estate agents are. If you're an agent of one, if you're not managing a team, right? If really the evolution of an agent goes from agent of one to a team where they now become sales manager, right? To a team of teams where now you have HODs who are overseeing each department, right? To eventually you go from team of teams to a business of businesses, because you start opening up other revenue verticals, right? Whether it's through rental properties, or whether it's through coaching programs, or whatever it is, right? To go to that CEO, you become a team of teams, and then a business of businesses, right? So with us, right, I like to give this example. Our number one hire, which is coming back to your question, John, our number one hire in Q3 of 23 was for client care managers, right? At Sphere Rocket, we hire client care managers for $4 an hour. Now, at Sphere Rocket, right, I mentioned we pay them a higher base, et cetera. We use US people for this. We're more of a transactional business. Our life cycle of a sale is much shorter than real estate, right? But in real estate, we can hire client care managers who are VAs because they can stay top of mind. This person is not an AE, a client care manager, or a CSM. Their job is not to get the kill today, right? Their job is to know, hey, John Kitchen's birthday is on December 25th, right? Or December 26th, whatever it is, right? His anniversary is on this date, right? John Kitchen's favorite food is pizza, right? You're going to know everything about this client. And then what they do, to answer your question, is they're following up not to try and drive business. Their intention is to stay top of mind, right? So they'll say, John, Merry Christmas on behalf of the Kitchens team, right? I want to start a conversation and see what your goals are for 2024. Is there any way that we can be involved with those goals? I would love to set up a call between you and John. Right, John, happy anniversary on behalf of the kitchens team. Right, the little things where the other agents are not doing it. Right, they're not even considering it. Right, I always talk about managing salespeople through gifts, GIFs, meaning like every time I'm talking to them, I'm sending them gifts and we're celebrating and having a good time. Gifts, GIFTS, meaning I'm sending them out gifts on Christmas and the holidays, right? And their birthdays. And then SPIFs, SPIF, Special Performance Incentive Fund, right? And the way you manage a sales team is the same way that you manage a prospect. If you do the small things, people want to keep a relationship with you.
Yeah.
Right? If they keep a relationship with you, they'll stay top of mind to come back and ask you for business when they're ready in real estate. Right? The tough part is, as an agent of one, you don't have the bandwidth to do it all. You're an AE trying to take your 5 sales appointments per day. So you have to have your team do it for you.
No, I love it. And I think looking at maybe some ways, I think this would be a really good to kind of see what you think or how to determine those KPIs to pay attention to within the role. Each of the roles, because no matter what, even if you are the agent of one within sales, you're wearing all those hats, you have to nurture and develop the opportunity. You got to close the opportunity, and then you got to manage the opportunity, which is the SDR, the account executive, and then the client experience. And it's all bundled into one, what you get to do. Plus solo, you're also the marketing team, you're also the operational team, you're also the finance team, right? So that's why, I'd rather our agents of one, which is a highly profitable model, but create some leverage. And like, if you don't have, 2, 3 VAs, working for you, then you're really leaving a lot of money on the table, because what I've seen, really good agents, they need to stay in that AE role. They need some bandwidth to help them to get that operational hat, the paperwork, the time consuming, mundane stuff off their plate to be able to do that. But back to our sales process, Moose, what are the, like, maybe it's different for you guys, maybe how you answer this question, but like, what is the like the main metric to be thinking about for each of those functions heading into the new year?
Yeah. I don't think it will be, John. I think it'll be the same, right? Across industry, I think it'll be the same, right? We talked about earlier the evolution from a salesperson going from, hey, I'm a salesperson to, okay, I understand that I have a sales process. Somewhere in between there, right? There's a stage where you're just like, I'm a great salesperson because I'm the man, right? And you believe like, that's the only reason I'm a good salesperson, right?
Right.
Well, one of my mentors says that winning without understanding why you win is just as bad as losing.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can identify what it is that actually makes you a great salesperson, you can start outsourcing those through KPIs.
Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the day, it always comes down to this, right? SDRs, sales development reps, right? Outbound activity, right? How many people are we telling that, hey, I have something for sale? Right? How many people are we saying, hey, I want to have a conversation because I think what I have could help you? Right? Emails and dials, right? Again, with ours, $120 per day. When I talk to most agents who are hiring an SDR, I ask them, how many dollars are they making a week? They're like, I don't know, 50. Right? I don't know. If you don't know, it's a key indication. If it might be 50 or it might be 200, it's probably 0. It's a key indication that you're not actually doing it, right? If you're not doing it with intentionality, it's also a problem, right? Because it's not measurable. So we know that dials are going to be beneficial, right? SDRs, dials, emails, that's their number one KPI, right? AE, conversion, right? I've onboarded a lot of agents. I've never worked in real estate specifically. If I were a gambling man, if you talk to a lot of agents, especially the ones who are the top AEs, they're going to throw out some arbitrary number. Like I convert 60% of all the people that I talk to. And it's like, okay, do you?
Yeah.
Do you have any data that supports that? Or do you just assume that you convert 60% of the people that I talk to? Well, yeah, I keep the data, but I handpick the data that I
got my tracking right here, Moose.
Exactly right. Right. Realistically, in a good sales process, I mean, depending on how you're getting your leads, guys, going back to affiliates and, your referrals, right? Those are free leads. You can convert at 1% and still be profitable on those, right? With paid traffic, I tend to see profitability tends to start around 10%, right? With real estate, your commission is so big, it might be even less, right? But most AE is industry to industry have a target of 10 to 25%. Anything over, I hate to tell it to you because I know there's an agent listening who's like 25%. I'm way better than that. I hate to tell it to you. You're not talking to enough people or you're tracking your information incorrectly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then CSM retention. Every client that we assign to a CSM, we track it on a day-by-day basis. And we know the average lifespan of the client. We know how many are making it through our free trial. By the way, we have a free trial if anyone's interested in getting a virtual assistant through us, right? Yeah. We keep eyes on all of that.
Yeah, I think I love that there. The thing that in real estate that we did with that experience manager, right? That's kind of managing longer term. They were responsible for like the business metric that we paid attention to is the number of referrals they were able to extract.
Yeah.
I think, we would measure, did they go get the testimonial? Did they go make sure that those people gave us a review?
Yeah.
Did we capture the net promoter score?
Yep.
But I think one of the other things that kind of lends into is really almost like the Harvey Mackay 66, right? Those hug fields that Jack Mitchell talked about in Hug Your Customer, and why they had such a high retention rate is because they knew their people. They walked in the door, like they were capturing the little personal. So they really helped with capturing the hug fields more so for personal relevance instead of professional relevance is easy, right? We can go capture that. That's just market the house, what they're looking for, market conditions, what's important to them. But the personal relevance, man, that's where the magic happens. And when you start to look at the database side of things, not in, not out, right? If they're not captured and we don't have the information, there's no way we can extract it. We can use it to our advantage with marketing. Like marketing's craving for those things. Like tell me who our best people are. Like, what do they hang out? What do they enjoy? What do they consume? What are they doing? Like now we can craft our message to attract better people. But that's really what I think one of the key metrics is. How many hug fields did we capture this week?
You know who I won't say who, but the best sales system in the world, right? The best sales system in the world are companies like Google, right? You don't think of Google as a sales system, right? You think as a traffic generation, but they have so much data on us, right? They know every last aspect of us, right? Again, that's the hug feel that you're describing, right? That's the purpose of your CSM, right? Or even your CRM, right? That's the purpose of these things, so that you can capture the little details that are going to get someone to do business with you. I have a note on my calendar for next Wednesday, John, of a prospect that I talked to who is interested in starting with us. He's going through a legal situation, and his legal situation is on Wednesday next week, right? I have a follow-up with him next Friday. I have a note on Tuesday to say, hey, I'm praying for this to all go well. Has nothing to do with the sales process. But it has
everything to do with the sales process.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so good. So good. The thing, Moose, so love your take on this. It's fascinating. I really appreciate you carving the time and pouring in and so many little nuggets. And I think it's, the sales process is the number one thing.
Yep.
You want world-class sales, you got to have world-class sales process.
Yes. 100%.
Where does someone start? You're like, I get it, Moose. I'm buying into it. I believe that. Where do I start?
I would love to say sphere rocket, right?
Absolutely.
The real place where you start is in the activity. If I find you the best salesperson in the world and we don't have any activity to try and use data to work off of those metrics, there's no SOP that we can create, right? It's based off of activity. When I was an area sales manager with Regis, right? I was with them for 5 years. I worked in a remote territory in Vero Beach, and I was a top producer out of hundreds of agents globally, right? But the way that I did it is I found what activity was beneficial, and I hired a VA to go in and replicate my activity, right? I didn't need Jordan Belfort to be the VA. I needed someone for $4 an hour to go and replicate the activity, which was outbound emails and dials, so that my calendar was full, so I didn't have to go and find my own business. That's a really key place to start. If you don't have attention, then you have to start with marketing, whether that's a social media manager. You have to have some form of leads that you can contact. That's the first place to
start. Got to have traffic before you can convert it.
Correct. Yep. You mentioned traffic product conversion. There's only three things that matter in business, right?
And being able to have that, right? Being able to have something and people to make offers to, because, understanding the formula from business is just offers minus no's equals yeses. And so you got to have a process to be able to create offers, be able to throw it out to them to get no's, and then being able to convert them over. So I love that. It's through the activity, and it's where it really, really starts. So where do they go, Moose? Like you've mentioned Belfort a couple of times. He's got one of the best training programs that I think you can go through. I mean, you drop the cultures that you were a part of, the training with Cutco, the training with Regis, you've been a part of some great training organizations. Like if somebody's looking to just kind of model that success or get plugged in and just instead of, innovate, they would just want to imitate. Like where would they go look? Like where would be some good places to dive into to be like, hey, let's model this for success?
I'm really, really biased, John. I'm really biased, right? My sales team at Sphere Rocket will tell me different sales trainers that they're following all the time, right? And be like, hey, this is what X is saying. This is what Y is saying. For lack of better words, I don't believe much in sales training. Right? As a sales director, I do not believe much in sales training. Like I hate to say that. I don't believe it. Right? If you are the best salesperson on the worst offer in the world, you can't sell shit. Right? Sorry for the language. If you're the worst salesperson on a great process and a great product, you'll do just fine. Right? So start the activity. Start collecting the data on your activity, figure out what's working, and replicate that data, right? If you have questions regarding starting your process or what you're trying to look at or your SOPs, please feel free to use me as a resource. I'm happy to give you templates and SOPs that I already have. I'm happy to have a conversation to help you break that down. But what I won't give is sales training. There's a big difference. There's a big difference between sales management and sales training. I don't believe in a ton of value in sales training.
I love that.
Sorry.
Sorry. That's good. I love it. I love it. And you come back to, just always in constant pursuit of becoming the best marketer, and the offer sells itself. And when the offer is irresistible, and then being able to get the offer out to create people that want that offer and what you have, then I think you're right, man. It's just the activities. And I think where a lot of people are not hitting the sales and hitting the numbers they want to hit is just the lack of activity.
we revamped our offer in 2023. Like I mentioned, we used to be a high ticket offer. And when we revamped the offer, we went through this at the kitchen table again, right? Going through Alex Hormozy's $100 million offers to make a no-brainer offer. An example that I'd like to give on this is, oh gosh, what was the name of it? Domino's Pizza. Not the best pizza in the world. I'm not a fan of Domino's Pizza. Biggest pizza franchise in the world. Why? Because they have the best offer. What's the offer? Do you know off the top of your head?
30 minutes or it's free.
30 minutes or it's free. That's a no-brainer offer. When they came up with that offer, they became the biggest franchise, biggest pizza franchise in the world. Yeah. Right? So books like $100 million offer with Alex Hormozy to try and come up with your perfect offer, right? Working with guys like John Kitchens to try and critique it and narrow down your offer to exactly what it should be, right? When we switched our offer to the free trial model, John, we quadrupled our client acquisition. We quadrupled it. We went from 20 units a month to 80 units a month. Okay. Now, of those 80, it's common that will fall down to 60 because about 20 opt out, whether they're too early, they don't want to manage people, they don't want a virtual assistant, whatever. That's fine. We are happy to fall to 60 units a month because we still tripled our client acquisition on it, even after the churn. Does it have to be a free offer? No, I'm not saying that as a real estate agent, your offer has to be free, but I am saying to throw out some type of no-brainer offer that makes it irresistible, like 30 minutes or your pizza's free.
That's it. I love it. Moose, fantastic, brother, man. I know, being able to jump in and carve out some time and pour back into this community and really talking a key component in the evolution, like you said, of what it really takes to go from agent to CEO and really the CEO of your business, CEO of your life, and really just, what's the process? What's the process, and trust the process. And I absolutely love it, man. I really appreciate you jumping in, adding a ton of value.
Thanks a ton for having me, John. I appreciate you, man. Anything I can do for the community, please, guys, don't allow me to be a sales guy to the community. I obviously pushed Sphere Rocket a couple times, but please use me as a resource, guys. Any way that we can jump on a call, I'm happy to jump onto a call. If I can provide you some value, I know that's a good way for me to get referrals. So love just having relationships, guys, any ways that I can help.
Absolutely, man. You've been a tremendous resource for me and for a lot of our clients. And so really appreciate you. And you guys connect with Moose, connect with the entire Sphere Rocket team. Definitely, you're looking to imitate before you innovate. What they're doing is world-class and worth imitating. So Moose, appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks a ton.
See ya.